If you've ever lain awake in the quiet hours of the night, feeling a restlessness that has no name, you already know this. Inner peace is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's the ground beneath your feet. It's the breath before the decision, the pause before the reply, the space in which your life actually happens. And yet, even when nothing is technically wrong, something still stirs like a low, persistent hum underneath your day. Where does that hum come from? Often, it comes from habits we hardly notice. They sneak in, take root, and begin to shape how we see ourselves, other people, and the world. They are small, but their effects are not. They're the tiny hinges that swing open very heavy doors. Today, we're going to talk about those habits, the toxic patterns that block your inner peace. Not with harsh judgment or finger pointing, but with the friendly honesty of a mentor who has walked the same road. We'll step into a Stoic frame, practical, grounded, compassionate, and rational. The Stoics didn't ask us to float away on clouds of theory. They handed us tools to live better today, in the middle of our emails and obligations and noisy streets. If you're willing, we'll pick up those tools and try them on the problems that really matter. Anxious thinking, the need to control, the itch to compare, the pull of resentment, the tug of distraction, the cruelty of our own inner voice, and the seductive lure of complaint and blame. Why this topic? Because peace isn't something you achieve once and keep forever. Peace is more like a climate you cultivate. If you don't tend to it, storms gather. If you keep tending to it, the weather changes. The good news is that inner peace isn't far away. It's just on the other side of a few daily choices. You don't have to become someone else. You simply have to stop feeding the habits that flood your mind with noise and start feeding the ones that make space for clarity, courage, and joy. We'll move through 7 habits. Each one shows up in subtle ways. Each one can be replaced. I'll ask you questions as we go, not to interrogate you, but to let you hear your own wisdom speaking back. You already know many of these truths. What you might need is a reminder and a set of practices that you can begin using the moment this audiobook ends. Imagine carrying a small toolkit in your pocket. That's what we're building. Ready? Let's walk together. Part 1. The Tyranny of Control. Let's begin with the most seductive habit, the need to control everything. You know the feeling. If you can just get this person to behave, this outcome to line up, this timing to match your plan, then you'll relax. Then you'll be okay. But have you noticed that when you get what you want, the mind doesn't relax for long? It immediately scans the horizon for the next lever to pull, the next variable to pin down. Control promises peace, but delivers anxiety. It tightens the mind like a fist. The Stoics gave us a clean cut to separate what nourishes us from what drains us. There are things within your control, your judgments, your choices, your actions, your attention, and there are things outside your control, other people's opinions, the weather, market swings, yesterday, and most of tomorrow. On paper, this sounds simple. In practice, it's one of the hardest disciplines we've ever learned. Consider an ordinary day. A colleague misses a deadline. Your mind surges, pressure, frustration, the impulse to fix. What's yours to control here? Your preparation, your tone, your boundaries, your next step. What's not yours? Their past decisions, their level of effort, their private motives. So which one do you reach for? Do you grab the levers you can pull, your clarity, your plan, your request, or the ones you cannot, someone else's inner life? Ask yourself, and really answer, in the last 24 hours, how many minutes did you spend wrestling with something you can't control? 10 minutes, an hour, more? Imagine reclaiming that time and pouring it into what you can control, learning, creating, training, loving, resting. That's not retreat, that's precision. Control is tricky because it often masquerades as responsibility. If I don't hold everything together, everything will fall apart. Is that true or just familiar? There's a more accurate belief. If I take full responsibility for what is mine, I become incredibly effective, and I stop hurting myself on what isn't mine. You can be intense about your effort without being tense about the outcome. There's a difference. Try a simple exercise several times a day. Pause and ask, what part of this is mine to manage? Write the answer down if you can. Then ask, what part is not mine? When you have it on paper, there's less confusion. Choose one small action firmly within your control and do it with full attention. Then practice letting the rest unfold. This is not passivity, it's clarity coupled with courage. It's releasing the need to control so you can command your response. You don't need certainty to be at peace. You need a trustworthy process. The Stoic process is short. See clearly, choose wisely, act bravely, accept results peacefully, repeat. Every time you return to that loop, your grip on control loosens, and your hands open to what's next. In that openness, peace slips quietly back in. Part 2. The River of Comparison. Another habit that steals your quiet is comparison. You open your phone and you're swept into a river highlight reels, curated lives, metrics that pretend to measure worth. You glance at someone's success and feel smaller. You look at someone's beauty and feel less. You watch someone's timing and feel late. And then, because you feel behind, you rush. And when you rush, your work loses its soul. Comparison blocks peace by turning your attention outward, away from your lane. It tells you to stare at other people's gardens while your own goes dry. The Stoics would ask, what is the aim of your life? If you aim to be you fully, honestly, then comparison is interference. It confuses you about where to place your effort. You can't tend your work while you're busy measuring it against someone else's path. What if you zoomed out? The Stoics practice the view from above, imagining life from a bird's eye perspective. Try it now. Picture the city where you live, then your country, the earth itself, spinning in vast space. You're still here, but the edges of envy soften. Everyone is carrying a story you can't see. The timeline is larger than your timeline. The race you're running is not their race. Ask yourself a gentler question. Compared to yesterday, what grew? Did you show up? Did you keep your word? Did you ask a better question? Did you practice your craft for an extra 15 minutes? That's what you can control. That's what peace loves: quiet progress toward what matters to you. A practice. To try each evening. List 3 things you did that were aligned with your values. Not achievements the world can applaud, but actions that honor who you want to become. Maybe you wrote honestly, even if no one read it. Maybe you cooked a meal with care. Maybe you took a walk without your phone and actually saw the sky. When you train your attention to notice the right things, comparison loses fuel. There's another angle. Sometimes comparison hides a signal. What you admire in others might be a mirror showing you what you desire to build. If you look at a musician and feel a pang, is it envy or is it your own artistry asking to be fed? If you feel a twist when a friend launches a project, is jealousy the problem or is there a project in you that needs a start date? When you catch that pang, turn it into a plan. Comparison corrodes when it's passive. It empowers when it becomes a prompt to create. Peace grows in the soil of sufficiency, not the naive idea that everything's perfect, but the grounded belief that you already have enough to take the next step. Envy says, I can't be at peace until I have what they have. Wisdom says, I can be at peace while I build what I'm called to build. One mindset drains you, the other fuels you. Choose the one that feeds your life. Part 3. Catastrophizing and Future-Tripping. Let's move into the mind's movie theater, the place where it plays dramatic trailers for a future that hasn't happened. Catastrophizing is a toxic habit because it hijacks your nervous system and convinces you that imagination is evidence. You feel the fear as if the event has already occurred, and then you live today as if tomorrow were guaranteed to be terrible. What happens to peace when the mind is spinning like that? It can't land anywhere. It's all turbulence. The Stoics were realistic, not naive. They knew that life brings uncertainty and loss, but they distinguished between preparing wisely and suffering twice. Preparing means looking at likely challenges and making ready. Suffering twice means rehearsing pain over and over with no action, just dread. Which are you doing more of? Try a small technique. When your mind paints a nightmare scenario, say the word maybe, not dismissively, curiously. Maybe the meeting goes badly, maybe it doesn't. Maybe the project stalls, maybe it surprises you. Maybe the relationship is ending, maybe it's changing, which could be better than ending. That single word loosens the lock of certainty. It cracks the door for better possibilities to enter. Now at a second step, if the feared event did occur, who would you choose to be? What would you do? Within your control to respond, write a short plan, not a novel, a plan. If X happens, I do A, B, and C, then place the plan somewhere you can find it and come back to your day. You have transformed vague fear into concrete readiness. That's a Stoic move, converting emotion into informed action. Another practice is what the Stoics called negative visualization, which can be misunderstood. It doesn't mean wallowing in despair. It means briefly imagining the loss of something you take for granted, so that you appreciate it more and prepare for its fragility. When you sip your coffee, remember that a time will come when you can't. When you hug someone you love, remember that time is finite. Does that make you morose or more present? Done well. This exercise deepens gratitude and slims down catastrophizing, because you stop believing you're owed any particular outcome. You learn to love what you have while you have it, and to accept change when it arrives. If you need an anchor, use your breath. Long exhale. Then ask, what is the next faithful action? You don't need to solve a month of problems right now. You need the next step. When you treat the future like a puzzle to be solved today, you pick at it endlessly and bleed your peace. When you let the future be the future and keep your feet in the present, you regain strength. Strength invites peace. Part 4. The loop of complaining and blame. Have you noticed how easy it is to complain? A few seconds of venting can feel like relief, but stay there too long, and complaining becomes the music of your mind. It trains your attention to search for what's wrong. Before you know it, your life is a collection of irritations. Blame is similar. It points the finger outward and makes you a spectator of your own story. If others are responsible for how you feel, then you're stuck waiting for them to change before you can rest. The Stoics believed in responsibility not because it's noble to tough it out, but because responsibility returns your power. Complaining says, they ruined my day. Responsibility says, they were difficult. I chose to respond in a way that made my day worse. That's not self-attack, it's self-honesty. When you anchor the cause of your experience in your own choices, you find leverage, and leverage is the doorway to peace. This doesn't mean pretending that injustice or dysfunction is fine if a situation is unhealthy. Wise responsibility asks what you can do, set a boundary, make a request, escalate, document, or exit. What it doesn't support is chronic rumination that changes nothing. You have likely noticed that after a long session of complaining, you don't feel cleansed. You feel tired. If you shift from complaint to request, from blame to boundary, your energy changes. You stop being a narrator of problems and become an author of solutions. Consider a practical rule. If something bothers you and a calm, respectful conversation could improve it, have the conversation. If it cannot be changed and isn't central to your life, practice letting it pass. If it cannot be changed and is central, then make a plan to change your relationship to it. New habits, new environment, new terms. In every case, move a little closer to what you can influence. What about the small daily grievances, the slow line, the noisy neighbor, the rain on your one free afternoon? Here's a quiet trick. When you catch yourself about to complain, name one benefit in the situation. It can be tiny. The slow line gives you time to breathe. The neighbor's noise reminds you to invest in better earplugs and a small reading ritual. The rain forces you inside, where that book you've been avoiding is waiting. This is not toxic positivity. It's the deliberate practice of usefulness. If you can extract one benefit from annoying events, you won't need the sugar rush of complaining. You'll be busy learning. Blame is a rigid story. Peace is a flexible mind. The more flexible your mind, the more roots you discover out of your frustration. Ask often, what else could this mean? What else could I try? Who else could help? What would the wiser version of me do here? Then do that. The habit of asking better questions dissolves the habit of habitual complaint. Where questions grow, peace follows. Part 5. The poison of harsh self-talk. Let's talk about a quieter toxin: the way you speak to yourself when no one else can hear. You may be gentle with others and merciless with yourself. You may believe that if you're not hard on yourself, you'll become lazy. But look closely. Has cruelty made you better or simply more afraid? Does shame sharpen your skill or does it narrow your life? The Stoics taught that our distress doesn't come from events, but from our judgments about them. One of the most insidious judgments is the belief that your worth rises and falls with your performance. When you do well, you allow a bit of ease. When you miss, you withdraw it. Peace becomes conditional. You live under constant evaluation. What if your worth were constant and behavior were variable? You could still hold yourself to high standards, but from a place of care, not contempt. Imagine a coach who knows you can do better and speaks to you like a human being. You missed this, that's okay. Here's what to try next. Doesn't that tone help you improve faster? Why not extend it to yourself? Try this experiment for a week. When you catch harsh self-talk, I always mess this up. I'm so behind. I'm not good. Enough, interrupt it with precision. Replace always with a fact. I missed it this time, and here's the adjustment. Replace behind with a step. I'm starting now with 5 minutes. Replace not good enough with a plan. I'm learning. Today I'll practice one skill deliberately. Precision beats poison. Precision focuses you on behavior you can change. There's also the practice of honest praise. Not flattery, not denial of flaws, but recognition of effort well spent. Did you show courage? Notice it. Did you maintain your temper? Name it. Did you tell the truth when lying would have been easier? Thank yourself. The brain listens to the stories you tell about your actions. If the story is always not enough, the brain stops offering energy. If the story is we made progress, let's continue. The brain invests. You might be wondering, isn't this just self-esteem? Not quite. It's self-respect, which is different. Self-esteem often tries to feel good without facing facts. Self-respect feels grounded because it includes the facts' failures, missteps, and all while committing to growth. The Stoics weren't in the business of inflating egos. They were in the business of building character. And character grows fastest in a climate of truth and kindness. If this feels foreign, recall how you speak to a friend having a hard day. You don't lie to them. You also don't attack them. You offer clear advice in a compassionate tone. Be that friend to yourself. Every time you do, you loosen the knot of inner aggression and make more room for peace. Peace loves honest kindness. Part 6. Distraction and the overflow. There's another habit we often underestimate: overconsumption. Not only of food or drink, but of information, noise, and novelty. The modern world is an all-you-can-eat buffet for the mind. If you're not careful, you'll snack on stimulation from morning to night and never actually be nourished. Distraction promises relief, but steals depth. It fractures your attention into tiny pieces. And where attention goes, your life goes. The Stoics prized stillness, not because they disliked activity, but because stillness clears the instrument through which you act your mind. Without some quiet, you can't hear your own thinking. You can't sort signal from noise. You can't notice what's actually bothering you. So you treat the wrong problem and keep spinning. Start small. Create a daily pocket of emptiness. It can be 5 minutes after you wake up. Sit. Breathe. Let your mind settle. If you need an anchor, ask, what are my top 2 intentions today? Not 10. 2. Write them down. When your day gets loud, those 2 intentions will be your compass. Whenever you finish a task, take one quiet breath before you pick up the next. Sprinkle silent commas through your day. Commas change the meaning of a sentence. They'll change the meaning of your hours. You may also need to negotiate with your devices. If your phone is the first thing you touch when you wake and the last thing you touch before sleep, it's not a tool, it's a diet, and it may be making you sick. Consider a gentle rule: no phone for the first 30 minutes of the day. Use that window to move, read, write, or simply exist. Then set specific times to check messages. You're not becoming a monk, you're becoming an editor of your own attention. If you want a stronger practice, try voluntary discomfort in small doses. Take a walk without headphones. Leave the house without your phone for 20 minutes. Fast from unnecessary screens for half a day each week. The Stoics recommended sampling hardship to expand our capacity. When you prove to yourself that you can be with your own company, peace has a place to sit down. And yes, consider the physical side. Sleep, hydration, movement. These are not separate from inner peace. They're the body's way of making peace. Easier to access. A tired mind is more easily hijacked by distraction. A nourished body is a quieter room in which to think. You don't need perfect habits. You need humane ones. Add one tiny habit that supports your nervous system: a consistent bedtime, a daily walk, a glass of water after coffee. Watch how much calmer your mind feels when your body is on your side. Part 7. Grudges, resentment, and the weight you don't need. Finally, let's talk about the heaviness we carry when we've been hurt. Resentment can feel righteous. It tells you that holding on is a form of justice. But resentment is a strange kind of loyalty. It keeps you close to what you dislike. It knots your stomach when their name appears. It floods your brain when you're trying to work. It walks into your happiest moments and sits down without asking, is that power or prison? The Stoics drew a clean line between two things we often confuse: justice and obsession. Justice is sober. It deals in facts and appropriate actions. Obsession is sticky. It loops in the mind and calls it vigilance. If a wrong requires action, take it. Document. Protect yourself. Seek counsel. Set boundaries. And move on to what's within your control. But when action is complete, rumination must end, or it will eat you. Forgiveness, in this frame, is not pretending the past didn't happen. It's releasing the hope that the past will change. It's accepting that you can't rewrite what occurred, while fiercely committing to shaping what comes next. Forgiveness is not the same as reconciliation. You can forgive and keep your distance. You can forgive and let consequences stand. You can forgive and say a firm no to future harm. In many cases, forgiveness is simply the decision to stop pouring your life into a story you've already read. Try a practical ritual. Write the full story once. Include the facts, the feelings, the effects. Be as honest as you can. Then, next to that story, write a letter to yourself from a wiser, older you. What do they want for you now? What will they ask you not to carry another mile? Fold the letters. Put them away. The next time resentment tries to recruit you, remind it that the writing is complete. Your energy belongs to living. There's another piece. Sometimes resentment is a boundary problem in disguise. You say yes when you mean no, and then you resent the person you said yes to. You offer what you don't have to give, and then you resent yourself for overextending. Boundaries are not punishments. They're clarity about what you can responsibly sustain when you speak them clearly and early. I'm not available for that. I can help for 30 minutes. That's not my role. You prevent the slow build of quiet anger. If the word boundary feels harsh, try the word agreement. What agreement do you need with yourself and with others so that your energy is protected? Agree. Keep it. Peace thrives where agreements are honored. We've walked through 7 habits that block your inner peace: the need to control, the compulsion to compare, the habit of catastrophizing, the loop of complaint and blame, the poison of harsh self-talk, the overflow of distraction, and the weight of resentment. If you recognize yourself in some of them, that's a sign of attentiveness, not failure. Remember, we're not building a perfect life, we're building a practiced one. The practiced life is humble. It tries, learns, adjusts, and tries again. You might be wondering where to start. Start where your life is already talking to you. Which habit feels most alive right now? Pick one. For the next 7 days, make it your focus. If control has you by the throat, practice naming what's yours. And what isn't, then act only on what's yours. If comparison is stealing your joy, put your attention on daily alignment, 3 small wins each evening that reflect your values. If catastrophizing is loud, say maybe, write a tiny response plan, and come back to the present. If complaint is your soundtrack, convert a grievance into a request or a boundary. If harsh self-talk is your reflex, interrupt it with precision and a kinder tone. If distraction rules your mornings, protect 10 minutes of quiet and to clear intentions. If resentment weighs you down, write the story once, make the necessary agreements, and return your energy to building a life you want to inhabit. One more thing, peace isn't only the absence of disturbance, it's the presence of meaning. When you live inside your values, when your days match your priorities, even imperfectly, peace grows. That might mean doing less but doing it well. It might mean saying fewer yeses and making your yeses truer. It might mean pausing more, listening deeper, and meeting your irritations with curiosity instead of reflex. These are small acts with large echoes. The Stoics would encourage you to hold to thoughts together. The world is uncertain, and your character is not. You can be steady in a shifting environment. You can be calm in a noisy room. You can be kind in a harsh season. You can be brave in a moment that frightens you. You can be thoughtful in a culture of speed. These are choices, practiced daily, that even loss cannot take from you. As you close this chapter, take one breath. Feel the weight of your body where you are, without changing anything about your life in this second. Notice that there is already a small space of quiet available. It grows when you tend it. It shrinks when you neglect it. If you forget tomorrow, begin again. If you slip this afternoon, begin again this evening. The muscle of peace is built on repetition. Let me leave you with a final invitation. Speak to yourself like a teacher who believes in you. Treat your day like a craft, not a race. Stand in the truth of what you can control. Practice letting the rest pass by like weather. Acknowledge it, prepare for it, and then return your hands to your work. Your life is shaped in the space between stimulus and response. Fill that space with wisdom. Fill it with care. Fill it with the quiet courage of someone who is learning to be free. Because inner peace isn't somewhere you arrive. It's someone you become. It's not a finish line. It's a way of walking. And you can walk that way right now, in the middle of the same life you already have, by releasing the habits that block your path and choosing the practices that light it. If you do, you may notice something subtle and extraordinary. The hum underneath your day softens. Your mind feels a little wider. The world is still the world, but you are more yourself inside it. That's inner peace, not the absence of life, but the presence of you.